Well, hello there. It is Friday, May 7th, 2021. Just a little bit before 3 Eastern Standard Time. My name is Bev. This is the Bev D Show. And it's a sunny day for a minute in northeastern Ohio, which is very exciting because it's been pretty cloudy, pretty rainy. But, I mean, after all, it is Ohio. That's what we do here, and we do it pretty good. You know the joke, the old adage. Ohio, the one place where you can have all 4 seasons in one day. So how exciting is that? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on and some thoughts that came to my mind that I just needed to kind of get out. Maybe it's validation for myself, kicking myself in the ass, getting things going. But today is all about getting back in the saddle. Remember that song, Back in the Saddle Again? Or fast forward Aerosmith. You don't want me to scream like Steven Tyler, but back in the saddle. It's a great place to be. I have been behind the scenes doing a lot of planning. I have a lot of details to launching my new business, and it requires a ridiculous amount of self-discipline and self-awareness, and to be honest, believing in myself, believing, you can be in your own head and create a ton of self-doubt, and if you allow it, it can affect you. So who I am, what I do, I'm a writer. I've been writing children's stories since I was a little girl. And, obviously through school, several projects that way. I loved public speaking, absolutely fell in love with it, loved to write speeches, loved to, a lover of music and written words. And I also like to write those words, and very passionate about that. So even when I'm very quiet, I'm still writing. And I know I'm doing something right because when I'm done, or it could be a poem, it could be just some random thoughts that seem to come together and make sense, I get a really big surge of energy, and happiness fills me inside. And lately, if I have a day where I don't do that, I can definitely kind of wage out the difference of, well, I know why I feel lousy, because I didn't do my thing. I didn't write, I didn't do a show or whatever, but I've really been kind of waiting until that perfect moment. And there really isn't one. You just have to find yourself and decide that that moment might be that very second. So that's why this show is happening, why it's an odd time to be happening, because it's just, you go in the studio and you start talking. And I'm kind of talking to myself, and I realize that, but I have had people message me, I was listening to your show. I've listened to a lot of your shows, and are you still doing the show? And I remember when I first started it, I said I was hoping to get one listener, if I could affect one person, inspire one person. And, that sounds kind of corny and cliche, but I'm serious about that. I really do want to hopefully affect one person, one being, in a very positive way. And the only way to do that is to reach out and to do it is what I was put here to do. Sometimes, more times than not, I get in the way of God's gifts, and I get in God's way, and I allow other things to come before that. So I have decided that that feeling that I'm talking about, that surge of energy or positivity or validation, really is the Holy Spirit, really is God. And that when I do these works that He's giving me, these, talents, if you will, as they talk about in the Bible, and I'm not using those, there's nobody harder on me than me. And I never want to disappoint God. I know that He still loves me when I'm not doing the things that I'm supposed to or that He scheduled me for. But I feel like I've disappointed Him. Both of my parents are dead, and they passed away many years ago. But when I was growing up, what I wanted to do, and I failed at it a lot, but what I wanted to do was make my mom and dad proud. And there were a few times in my life, my dad passed away when I was what I consider very young. Everybody has their dates and times that are riveting, but I was 21. And so the biggest cause of pride that I would see in my father was when I reflect back to high school. And I was in the marching band. I was a color guard. I was a flag girl. He was very excited about that. He found out I love the written word, and I had a couple of situations where whether there was a contest at school or I wanted him to look over a report, I could see that he was very proud. And with him being gone, I've continued to want to please him, please my mom, please the Lord, but sometimes you fall short of that. And the one thing that stops me, absolutely inhibits me from doing that, is my own mind. Is only me. I'm the only one in the way of me. I have support. I have a very loving family. I find myself in starting this business because I was one of the people that got laid off last year due to changes in how the business that I was working for, the company I was working for, they claimed it was because they were restructuring how they're doing things. And so there wasn't a place for me as a sales recruiter and trainer anymore at that time. So I was unemployed, and it was late in November that I decided that I have several unpublished books, and I decided that the time is now, that if I'm ever going to do this, it should be now. And you allow yourself to kind of get inside your own head. Well, what if it's not good enough? Who's going to listen? Who's going to read? And all of a sudden, it hit me. When you're sitting at your desk at work, or you could be a manufacturing woman or man helping to build cars, your reason for being there is critical. But you don't get to just sit there and say, well, who's going to open and close this door if you were the one responsible for putting doors on a car. I think most of that is mechanical now, but certainly you're in quality control. We have to have people testing things. I don't care if you're a receptionist, a dental hygienist, a doctor. We always run through the lawyer, the nurses. There's really bad doctors out there, and there's really lousy nurses, and there's really lousy lawyers. And, you go into, but there's really good ones too. And some of them do their craft better than others. And I found that the way that I was doing my craft terribly was not doing it at all. I just would stop but what I did in that time is I would read and I would research, and of course I have my cell phone, and I, watch videos and inspirational videos, and I guess anybody with a microphone can do a podcast today. And the radio I've listened to since I was a very small girl. I had a little transistor radio, And there were what were considered good stations and bad stations, and people who were good on the radio and others you couldn't stand the sound of their voice. So I decided that the only way that I was not going to be able to find out or not do it is to just not do it. So I was a sales trainer, and one of the things that I love to train people, phone was our number one way of contacting businesses, and I would say there's a 100% way you know somebody's going to say no. And that's if you never ask. That's if you never pick up the phone. So how could I do that in training and not apply everything I 100% believe to what I'm doing? So that's where I find myself at about 3:04 on a Friday afternoon, wanting to reach out and have a conversation, and have that conversation with the universe, myself, and so, hi, I'm Bev. This is the Bev D Show. So you're stuck with me if you chose to listen to this podcast. This podcast is available on all of your favorite platforms, whether it's iHeart or Spotify or, all of the different platforms that are out there. We are on all of them, so you can pretty much find me anywhere, including the audio version of these on YouTube. And when I sat down and I was setting up today, even my computer was sluggish. I have a different computer, set up and everything in my studio than I do on my regular one, where I do all my writing and all that kind of good stuff. And it was extremely sluggish. I was like, oh boy, there's going to be a need for an update. But, I had that spinning wheel. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that wheel go round, and a lot of songs came to my mind, So many. The Wheels on the Bus. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Spinning wheel. I sat there, and then I drifted off, and I was like, this is taking so long. And actually, when I looked at the clock, it only took a minute. But it was a little bit slow, and even the wheel was slow. And I was thinking about how we want things instantly. Where we live in a time where you can pretty much do that. You can order something online and get it the next day. You don't have to go out. And it's almost instant gratification. And I sometimes, as I'm going through the process of putting together the different elements of my business, I want it to go faster. I want to be, set up and get everything kicked off. I'm publishing my own books. I want to have all those in a row so that you can buy them and go to my website, which I am creating on my own as well. So I'm in this only me, kind of atmosphere where this is a grassroots effort and I'm doing it on my own. And I was thinking the same thing is the only way for me to be able to do this show is to wait. For me to wait on that spinning wheel to get me where I needed to be so I could bring up the studio and do what I've got to do. And I thought, why do I get so frustrated with myself? Why am I so frustrated with this? It's taking 60 seconds. So here's part of what I'm trying to say is that things take time, and it's the patience that we allow ourselves to let something grow. We have to nurture it. And that's the same thing with your career, your relationships. Anything that you do is going to take moments and seconds and hours and time. So the other part of what I was thinking as I was looking in those 60 seconds, I kind of drifted off, and I was thinking, here I am again. I have a new show. I've been doing this for a couple of years, but this is a fresh start. And I was thinking about, because I was being rough on myself. I've tried this before, and something might intercept and get in the way. Something like when I just had launched my business and I had committed to it and I got everything set up, or started to, I should say, I received a message from a friend and she said, "Hey, are you looking for work?" Well, no, not really. I'm just launching this, new venture for myself. And she says, "Well, the place that I'm at,